My brothers tried to end my life because I wanted to claim my own house. You never truly know someone until life forces their true colors to show. I learned this the hard way when my own brothers tried to end my life. My name is Benson. I am the second born in a family of 4. We are 3 boys and our youngest is a girl. Growing up, our parents raised us with strong values of love, unity, and sharing. They always taught us that family comes first and that we should look out for each other no matter what. For the most part, we lived by those principles. Or so I thought. When my elder brother, Michael, turned 21, he got an opportunity to travel to Europe. It was the kind of chance that our family had always prayed for. Michael was the first in our entire extended family to get the opportunity to travel abroad. Everyone was excited, and my parents didn't hesitate to support him. They borrowed money, even though it put a lot of strain on our already tight finances, just to make sure Michael could go. After a few months in Europe, Michael sent a letter saying things were tough. He explained that life over there wasn't as easy as people imagined. He explained that he barely made enough to survive, so helping out the family wasn't something he could do right away. We all understood and continued to support him with our prayers and encouragement. My parents, however, still had to deal with the moneylenders and their harsh tongues. The constant harassment weighed on them heavily. It wasn't until almost a year and a half later that Michael sent back some money to clear the debt. After that, though, the flow of letters and support slowed down significantly. Michael would occasionally call or send small amounts of money, just enough to keep the relationship alive but never enough to truly help. When his friends visited from Europe, they'd tell us he was doing well, living a comfortable life, but we didn't press him. Our parents, despite their struggles, never stopped hoping he'd eventually come through and help improve their situation. Over time, however, it became clear that Michael wasn't interested in making any major contributions to the family. His promises of future investments never materialized, and we slowly forgot about them. For over 13 years, life was hard for us back home. My parents aged quickly under the weight of their struggles. Then, I got my own chance to travel to Europe. When Michael heard about my plans, he stepped in to help. He assisted with my documents, and before I knew it, I was on a plane. My journey and integration were surprisingly smooth, thanks to him. When I arrived, I was shocked by what I saw. Michael was doing very well. He had a great job, lived in a well-furnished apartment, and was dating a beautiful woman. His life was nothing like the hard life he described in his letters and calls. Curious, I asked him why he hadn't been helping out the family more. He shrugged. "You wouldn't understand," he said. "The moment they know you're doing well, they'll never leave you alone. Everyone will bring their problems to you." His response annoyed me, but I tried to understand his perspective. After all, we'd seen how people abroad were often burdened with endless requests from family members back home. Still, I felt he could have done more. I asked him if he planned to return home one day to settle, maybe start a business or build a family. Michael laughed. "You're still new here," he said. "I used to think like you when I first came. Don't worry, you'll understand in time." We both laughed, but deep down, I didn't find it funny. I kept his words in mind but focused on building my own life. I got a good job, and within a year, I was earning well. Michael and I were close. We lived together and spent most of our time hanging out. We partied hard, met different women, and indulged in a lifestyle that was exciting but ultimately empty. When Michael's girlfriend left him, his behavior only got worse. After a year of living this way, I started feeling restless. I couldn't shake the thought of my parents struggling back home while I wasted money on things that didn't matter. I decided it was time to make a change. I moved out of Michael's place, got my own apartment, and focused on saving. I contacted our younger brother, Terence, and asked him to oversee the renovation of our parents' house. Michael wasn't involved, and I didn't tell him about the project. Terence did a fantastic job. When the renovation was complete, I was overjoyed. Our parents finally had a comfortable home, and seeing their happiness made every penny worth it. When Michael found out, he called to congratulate me, but I could sense the tension in his voice. "You've really outdone yourself," he said. Mom and Dad must be so proud. I thanked him, but I also reminded him that I had discussed the project with him before, and he'd shown no interest. He laughed it off, saying it was all good, and we moved on. Around that time, I met Nancy. She was from our hometown but also lived in Europe. We hit it off immediately and started dating. Within 2 years, we were engaged. Michael was supportive and gave us his blessings. Meanwhile, I continued to send money home, this time for a small supermarket to provide our parents with a steady income. Terence handled everything again, and once more, he didn't disappoint. With my parents now financially settled, Nancy and I began planning our wedding. We decided to return to Africa for the ceremonies. I didn't want to stay in a hotel, so I started building my own house back home. Naturally, I entrusted Terence with the project. I sent him money for the construction and later for a car to make our movements easier once we arrived. 2 weeks before our trip, I finally told Terence about our plans to visit home for our traditional marriage. I requested that he make a few arrangements regarding the event, but also asked him to keep everything quiet, especially about my travel, as I did not want many people to know about my coming into the country. His reaction was strange. He sounded nervous and asked why I hadn't informed him earlier. I was surprised at his line of questioning, but brushed it off, thinking he was just overwhelmed with the news. On the day we arrived, Terence was at the airport with our younger sister to pick us up. The reunion was emotional, and I was glad to be home. He drove us to our parents' house, where a large crowd had gathered to welcome us. I was annoyed because I had specifically asked for a quiet arrival. I pulled Terence aside. "Why did you invite all these people?" I asked. "I'm sorry," he said. "I was just so excited." I let it slide, although he could clearly see I was uncomfortable with the situation. I asked him to take us to my new house in the evening, but when the time came, Terence was nowhere to be found. His phone was off. Frustrated, we spent the night at a nearby hotel. The next day, I went back to my parents' house, only to learn that Terence still hadn't returned. When I asked my family if they had any information about the location of the house, they all said they knew nothing about it. My heart sank. I felt scared and panicked, but tried to stay calm. Nancy suggested we focus on visiting her family as planned and deal with the house issue later. Before we could leave, I felt a sharp, piercing pain in my feet. It was as if nails were being driven into my flesh. Within hours, my feet were swollen and discolored. I was rushed to the hospital. Doctors ran several tests, but everything came back normal. Despite this, my condition worsened. The doctors suggested amputation to save my life, but I refused. Desperate, Nancy's family and my parents recommended that I see a spiritualist. They believed my illness was spiritual, not physical. Out of options, I agreed to see him. The spiritualist confirmed our fears. "Someone close to you wants you dead," he said. "I can reverse the curse, but it has to be your choice to either let the perpetrators go free or send the illness back to them." Without hesitation, I chose to send it back. I was upset. I could not understand why anyone would want to harm me, given that I just came into the country. Within days, my condition improved. By the second week, I was fully healed. But then came the bombshell. Terence returned home, suffering from the exact same symptoms I had. His legs were swollen and discolored, and he was in excruciating pain. Terence confessed everything. He explained how he and Michael had agreed to squander the money I sent for constructing my house, as well as the money for the car. He went further to tell that when I announced my return, he panicked and called Michael, asking how to proceed, given that I was coming back home in such a short time. Michael, still in Europe, advised him to consult a spiritualist to get rid of me. Together, they plotted my death. When I heard this, I was shocked. I could not believe my ears and my eyes. How could my own brothers hatch such a sinister plan against me, when all I felt towards them was love? I had even promised Terence that I was going to assist him to travel to Europe to join me. How could he treat me like this? I could not stop crying. The betrayal was too much for me to bear. Now, Terence and my entire family are begging for my forgiveness. They believe that only my forgiveness can save his life. My parents and sister have been crying ever since, asking me to have mercy on Terence, but I feel he deserves what he is getting, especially because he did not show me mercy when he wanted to end my own life. Michael, who is unaware that I now know the truth, continues to call, pretending to care about me. He has not yet been informed on the turn of events on Terence. I'm torn. What should I do? Should I forgive Terence and possibly save his life even after he tried to end mine? What about Michael? Should I confront him and cut ties with him altogether? My heart is heavy, and trust feels like a distant memory to me. What would you do if you were in my shoes? Thank you so much for watching to this point. Please do not forget to leave your valuable advice in the comment section. Also, please like the video, share and subscribe to the channel for more amazing stories. Look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye.